Hello and welcome to Artist and Machine podcast stage. Victoria, it's so great to have you here. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm an artist and designer and researcher. And for the last 20 years, I have worked across figuring out what are the limits of human augmentation and human body design, specifically when it pertains to technology. So what that looks like in practice is I've worked in projects that move prosthetics and medical devices into a space of innovation and fashion. Other projects are doing advanced research with microgravity, for example, looking at how our abilities and the objects that we design around the body change with that. But I've also worked across a lot of virtual production, right? One of the things that's sort of anchors my work is really just thinking about what are the possibilities of body augmentation that are meaningful enough to translate into this virtual presence that we're working towards. And that is something that I'm here for today, right? I was introducing my project Metabodies.
Yeah, I saw a glimpse of it actually. I was at your presentation, very moved by everything you shared. Two things really stood out to me was how it felt like there was intention around showing imagery that we don't normally get to see. I'd love for you to kind of unpack a little bit more about why do we need that?
Yeah, I mean, so it's very easy to kind of place an abstract view on like diversity or why it's important for us to see different versions of human beings interfacing with the future or interfacing in entertainment or anything like that. And like, so in my work, I have been exploring how sort of looking at innovation through diversity opens up such a huge range of possibilities, right? And I quoted this quote by an interplanetary scientist from MIT Media Lab who says something along the lines of, we have been studying the universe from a perspective of the solar system. And the moment that we started looking at planets outside of our solar system, the diversity became undeniable. What that means is that it fundamentally changed not only what kind of planets exist out there, but what life even means on other planets. And I honestly feel like the way we have been looking at the human body and human identity through sci-fi narratives is like looking from like one direction. It's looking from one direction and it's sort of trying to create an evolution of one method.
Right.
Right? And I think so what some of the most fun aspects of my work is bring all the methods to the table, bring the full multidisciplinary array of methods, and nothing gets left behind. It doesn't matter if it's medicine. It doesn't matter if it's, based on some like ancient tradition. It's about what are our tools for understanding the capabilities of the human body, of possibilities of the human body, and this future human narrative, because we are rapidly running out of future narratives. If you think about how I really truly feel like we have caught up to so much imagination of the 20th century that we're now at a point where we're collectively starting to imagine in real time. We're building things in real time. And I think this is where speculative futures used to create a roadmap, because we were just like, let's imagine the wildest possible thing, right? And let's head in that direction. And we started going to that direction, but now a lot of ideas around transhumanism and this idea that, like, for example, you can leave the human the weight of the human, physical experience behind, and you can upload yourself somewhere, you may be able to do that. But the fact that that is the only way to imagine future humanity is very naive.
Right.
And what I have learned around working with the medical industry, and which is, by the way, our biggest field of what human and machine truly represents. Okay? Most of technology that has the most intimate impact with the human body is medicine. And we don't need to look very far to think about what the relationship with technology could be. And I really like to think about kintsugi, the Japanese art of mending something with gold. Okay? That is what I wish and hope for when we think about moving from illness to wellness, because it's all wellness, right? But then also moving from disability into innovation, and from disembodied imagination to embodied imagination, or reality-based imagination, like sci-fi in real life, where reality is alive with all of our ideas. But in order to go forward, we have to acknowledge what we know now.
Where do you say, where are we right now in that continuum?
Great question. So I think where we are right now in that continuum is a place of realization where we have to, the technology that we're creating demands a more honest, more intentional, more meaningful way to engage with it. It's so advanced. We've created literally a mirror for our inner world, right?
Yeah.
And so I like to think about it as like inner resolution, right? What is the input? What is the input that we are providing into these systems, into these mirrors, right? Because that our initial experiences with the internet and the kind of idea of virtual world has been, for entertainment, for, maybe for productivity, right? For memorization, whatever it is, right? Which we can get onto later, talking about the fact that what is the relationship and the purpose of these virtual tools? My recent observation is that it's probably the closest thing to being a prosthetic of the mind.
Wow. Good word choice. Oh my God. Didn't even think about that.
And so when we think about that relationship, a little bit like space, every single person's opinion and experience matters right now because it is uncharted territory. So I've spoken to people over the course of the day who are like from really powerful positions in their field. And they're like, I'm here to hear about how other people are, working with these technologies as if they hold the magic key. But you know what? It no longer matters. There's no longer I don't think it no longer matters that there's some sort of a leadership structure anymore, because how individuals choose to adopt that technology in their daily life, what it means to them, is so relevant.
Relevant
for how it's going to shape.
Right.
Because I'm like a huge believer in like personal power. Okay. Personal power means that, yes, there is a bigger forces at play for what types of technologies get out there, platforms are being built and infrastructures. But you know what? You are the audience. You are the person who will either adopt that tool or will decide that's not the way I want to do things in life.
The individual?
The individual. And that has been a very foundational thing in my work and my practice is like I came from being born in the USSR. I was almost thrown out to an orphanage because I had a leg injury at birth. It was like center of eugenics. Like I fought very hard for trying to distinguish what is like human value, where does that come from? And in that process, I've discovered that actually we hold a lot of power when we really put our mind to it, when we believe that we have the ability to change things, And I think the reason why an event like this is so important is that we have the opportunity to not have to fix things retroactively. We have the opportunity to change things and guide things where we want them to go right now.
So that's like that real-time nature you described before.
Correct.
Versus in the past, we might have had to wait to see the fruits of our efforts and labor, whereas now that feedback loop is immediate.
It's immediate, and it's closing closer and closer. If you think about people who are creating world-building models, okay, I was like asking, I was like, so what is its primary use? Okay, so you can simulate the world with physics and information. What then?
Predictions.
What then? Predictions, right? And in a way, the gap that's closing is our ability to imagine an alternative path, an alternative way to do things.
So excited to hear that.
Right. And that is where, my contribution has been on the application of AI in that sense, where I'm really interested in medical devices and bionics, right? How do we close the gap between we're about to have robots in our homes? We grew up as a generation with sci-fi imagery in our mind, but the reality of the world and objects that exist is extremely different. We're talking like in Marvel terms, like different universes, different design universes, right? So with my Metabodies project, for example, I was working with somebody from Nigeria recently. She's an amputee activist and TED speaker. She found out my work just a month ago, and she was just like, we cannot want what we have never seen.
Oh, wow.
And this is what I mean about personal power. This is how I've been able to exercise personal power, where my imagination of alternative future, just simply by manifesting the visual, creates like a North Star, that this is like where we can go.
I'm so grateful you exist, your work exists, because if more people get to have an alternative of how things could go right, if they can see it in their head as clearly as they can when they see your work, then to your point, it becomes actually, I love that wording, a North Star. Not to be bleak, what do you think our current North Stars are as humans? Mostly humans.
So it depends what aspect of life we're talking about. But I would say that what this emptiness that is transpiring through this sort of very mechanical, very optimized, very kind of meaningless layers of world that we're kind of experiencing right now, I know that it feels very heavy and bleak, but we need the juxtaposition to be able to see what we want to be cultivating. So we need the artificial in order to fully look back on what is biological. We need the dark to see the light. And it's like fundamental laws of like nature where we need to go into the direction of what we have been growing. What we have been growing, we've been watering like the seeds of following a lot of our surface impulses.
Damn.
And that's the beauty and like the pain of artificial intelligence, is that it's throwing back at us exactly what we are valuing, right? It's
brutal, but you're right.
It's brutal. It's so brutal, but I think that only when we reach the point where we fully understand where like this dream is missing the substance that, you know, is like fundamental to our relationships, to connections, to, and you know what? It's like, it's further, we go a little bit notch up, is that we're going towards like comfort. We're driving towards comfort. We're creating technologies that amuse us, entertain us, distract us from our discomfort and our pain and our reality of life. And this is my biggest sort of bone to pick with previous narratives around future humans, is that, you know, that one day we'll just transcend like what life feels like. And my suggestion as just a person is that increasing your capacity to go through discomfort is actually the answer.
Is it because the friction is part of the process?
Friction is part of the process. Is part of the growth. It's like, you know, and the analogies in nature are like endless, from training your muscle to, you know, like being able to get through something hard is how you get better at it.
Yeah, I'm a new dad. My daughter wasn't able to point recently, and like now she can, and how proud she was of being able to do it because she struggled a week ago. She does it now, and I'm so happy it was hard for her to do that, because it's actually a lot more meaningful when she saw her mom and dad, us, light up when she like pointed at her own face in a picture we'd taken of her, and we said her name and she pointed to her face, and like that's a whole new, she couldn't do that recently. And she saw how we reacted. But I think it was because she's tried to do that before. It had this friction. It actually made the whole interaction more meaningful.
It's that, and also we don't have to escape into some kind of near-fetched fantasy to understand what we have to do next. It's right here. Like, it's right here in front of us. Like, you know.
What do we do?
What do we do? We just really go, what does this mean for me right now? What do I want it to be? Last night, I was speaking with somebody and we were talking about, I was like, what would you like your relationship to be with AI? And they were like, well, I think the future is I would have to have a personalized algorithm. And I was like, okay, you'd have a personalized algorithm. Would it be just like you? No, I don't want it to be just like me, but I want to design it. Okay, you want to design it? What do you want it to do for you? I want it to, you know, and listing through the things of extending, like having better memory, like doing all of these different things. So you're literally describing sort of a prosthesis device, a way to support yourself. And so when I talk about that everybody's experience matters right now,
matters. I'm not familiar with
Everybody, when I'm saying that everybody's experience is just as valuable, this is what I mean, is that we're all developing in this real time. And this is where discrimination between what type of knowledge is more important than others, right? So you have ancient knowledge, you have lived experience knowledge, and then you have future sort of thinking kind of knowledge, right? Science knowledge. And, we tend to favor certain types of knowledge as superior. I would argue that that's a flawed way to go about things,
Why do we do this? I mean, if we're all human and we're all sharing space, ecosystems, why would we as humans collectively think that we should favor some forms of knowledge over other?
I can only talk from my personal insight. I used to favor everything that was ahead of me versus what's here right now and what happened to me before, because I genuinely felt that it wasn't good enough. It was it kind of came from a place of rejection of what truly is and who I truly am.
Mm-hmm.
And, it feels sticky and uncomfortable to think about that as the baseline for why we make things. But really, when you start, when you bring up all those other types of data inputs, which is what they are.
Discomfort, right? Friction.
Ancestry, heritage, biology, your present life experiences, your present environment. If you lift all of those things up to the same weight of importance as the new things you're discovering, things really change.
Fast.
I have an example for you. I went to a space conference in Nairobi.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay. And it was wonderful. There were people there that were talking about how humans have been looking at the stars since as long as we have records of humans existing.
So cool.
And the fact that knowledge of our entire human history is considered insufficient and not exciting enough and not important enough versus to what we're discovering right now really shows the absurdity and the ignorance.
Damn.
Wow. So there's stuff to work on, right?
Yeah. So I guess through your vision, how do you stay optimistic and actually, do you stay optimistic?
I stay entirely optimistic. I probably dedicate the most amount of time on teaching myself things, being able to open up my perspective. My favorite quote is, "I deserve the right to change my mind."
Ooh.
Because when substantial amount of things have happened in front of you that deserve for you to change your mind, that is so cool.
I agree. God, you couldn't have said it better. What's your favorite input?
Right now, so for the past 3 years, I have been really, really interested in somatic meditative practices.
What is that?
So specifically for me, it's been Vipassana. It is an ancient meditation technique where there is no music, there is no chanting, And you basically, it's the most intense way of observing reality within your body, within the framework of your body. And it's extremely transformative because we never get the opportunity to pay so much attention to what's truly happening on the inside of our body. And this is where it links to intelligence, is that there's a field of study called embodied cognition, which suggests that everything in your body is responsible for intelligence and cognition. Now, during some of these practices, I kid you not, I have moments where I get new insights and revelations from doing nothing but observing.
It's there.
And I really would go in to say that ideas and information, we don't know where they come from. We don't know how they land, how they choose to land in this vessel. And we don't know if there is already a field of knowledge and information exists in like a place that we can't even imagine.
I feel like it does. I feel like it does.
Right?
I feel like we're just like a receiver sometimes. You see like fractal antennas before?
Yeah.
I saw fractal antennas. I'm like, why isn't a human brain just a volumetric form of a fractal antenna?
There is a lot of arguments to say that it very well may be. So I think this is what I was saying about starting to look at the human being from as many angles as possible, because we can't even begin, like we need to turn into like 10D. We're looking at the human in like 2D. We've flattened that image so hard. We narrow it down to statistics. We narrow it down to little labels and things. And I'm just like, we are ancient animals, biological creatures who came from a history of the universe that we have no idea about. So if you think that you can put a little package and a little label on it and somehow that makes it real, it only makes it real in like the one timeline. But I think this is where art, I genuinely believe that art it's a form of communication that is not language, and it is a lot more visceral. It is a lot more feelings based. It's talking to us in colors and shapes. And how many times have you looked at something and you felt everything it was supposed to say just from looking at it?
There's so many layers.
So when you think about language learning models, great.
But it's like, it's a sliver.
It's a sliver
of the whole.
The spectrum.
Yeah. And it's a huge spectrum. Probably also goes infinite in both directions is probably what is likely going to happen. Like, I know we see the electromagnetic spectrum, they show it like cap at a certain, just because it's convenient to like put numbers, say, oh, like this many mu, we'll cap it there. But it probably keeps going. And then this one probably keeps getting wider and wider. But like we still have like, oh, this is the visible spectrum. This is electromagnetic. This is X-ray.
For sure. And, wouldn't it be funny if world building simulation just took us to a place that would reveal something that we just don't expect? Pretty likely.
I'm excited for it. Viktoria, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure for having you here at the Artist and Machine stage.
It's been really great. Thank you.